All right, guys, we're going to be reacting to a few things that some guy sent me over Instagram. First one is a clip from a podcast.
Watched him turn into this, bro. The muscles,
he's like a football player, bro.
Bro, it came out of nowhere. Like this dude was scrawny, like jersey too big, and then junior year it was just like, what's up? And like I said, we grew up together. I've been knowing Eric since we were in middle school. We went to college together. I've never seen this dude touch a weight. Even now, I don't know what he's doing now.
I think that's swole, bro. He ain't lifting no weight, bro.
Up into the NBA, I never saw Bled touch a weight. So what was he doing? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, Desmond Bain shoulders with no weights is crazy.
That's just all now.
Yeah, so this is the funniest phenomenon with so many elite professional athletes from different sports, and then you have thousands, millions of wannabe athletes on Instagram are saying, "Oh, he's only strong because the gym," or this some kind of mindset. I'm not sure where it came from, but why do people think the only way that you can develop muscular appearance is from doing gym work? It shows how deep the marketing of bodybuilding and protein powder has gotten into the average athlete or the average person. But this is, again, it's an example of when you have an elite athlete, that means elite biomarkers across many different health metrics, matures into a man going from high school aged into professional aged, going from 18 to 22, the same as Ronaldo, going from Sporting Lisbon to Manchester United. He matured into a man. When you are healthy, when you are extremely vital, you are peaking all of your hormone levels, you evolve and grow natural muscle without doing bodybuilding. And it seems like that idea is so insanely impossible for so many people to understand because they don't have it like that. Because they're not healthy. They don't have the athletic ability nor the mitochondrial function to simply grow into a man and mature naturally. All right, next one. All right, so this was an interesting video about sprinters and their aesthetic. So let's have a look.
3 things that consistently reduce fat and promote muscle growth. Number 1, sprinting at max speed puts more force through your muscles than any other weight.
So basically they're talking about why sprinters have such good physiques. And the first reason is about the amount of force that is put onto muscles when you sprint, and that amount of force is magnitudes larger than any kind of weight room exercise
that you can think of. Number 2, sprinting for extended distances of around 150 to 400 meters produces higher amounts of lactate in the blood. Associated with blood lactate levels rising are huge increases in both testosterone and growth hormone. This study actually found growth hormone increases of up to 2,000% and testosterone increases of up to 38% after similar sprinting protocols. And number 3.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, if you didn't know this yet, now you know. Sprinting is the most complicated movement a human can do, using everything in their body, coordinated at high speed to produce the amount of force into the ground enough to propel yourself forward fast. So obviously, the more you do that, the body sees it as, okay, I need to make more muscle, be healthier, recover to handle the higher levels of speed, and thus you see the different levels of hormones. So it also kind of goes to why you see such different body composition when you compare sprinters who are doing obviously short distance compared to cross-country runners, because the sport, like their specific competition, demands different things, and what is optimal for sprinting is not optimal for cross-country and vice versa. And that's why you, like many cross-country runners, have a lot lower human growth hormone, testosterone, because their body is not worried about making more muscle. It's worried about staving off all of the stress hormones from the extended medium level intensity and trying to not age too fast.
Sprinters train hard in the weight room. The stronger they are pound for pound, the more force they can put into the ground and the faster they will be. Combine their goals.
So this third one, obviously, I'm not going to agree with it that much, because there's lots of assumptions in there that have been found out to not be true at all. Like, just because you get stronger at a lifting exercise does not translate to speed, because speed is over 50% coordination. So this is kind of one of the assumptions by some sprint coaches. There's many other very well qualified and famous sprint coaches that do not like their sprinters in the gym. So it's not a foregone conclusion that all sprinters look the way they look because they're doing heavy gym work. And on top of that, usually the reason why sprinters maybe excel better at some of those heavier lifts is because they already have the athletic ability to sprint fast at high speed, obviously. So they have they're so much better equipped to execute the skill of a deadlift or a hip thrust or a barbell back squat, front squat. Them lifting weights didn't make them fast. They got really fast, and then that makes them very well equipped and much more better able to do any kind of lifts that a strength coach that has no experience sprinting wants them to be doing. And you'll find most track coaches don't like their sprinters in the gym too much because they see too much injury. So next one. The best athletes display an unmatched level of creativity and use movements to problem solve in sport. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good definition for athletic ability, is being able to execute whatever your skill needs to win. It's so funny that people talk about this. They obviously respect the coordination and the skill it takes to execute these movements on a football pitch, but yet they go and tell athletes to back squat, front squat, deadlift, which is the exact opposite of these things. It takes you farther away from the flow state. It takes you farther away from fluid spiraling movement that you have to execute these things, and is the polar opposite of creativity. Just like the biggest disconnect in the sports science world is every guy will admit, okay, yeah, Neymar is really skilled and creative with his body and his movement on the ball and off the ball. And there's very few players that can get anywhere close to him. But then yet the solution is to do the opposite of what made Neymar. It doesn't make any sense. All right, so there's this new runner coming up, Gout, I think you pronounce his name. And let's just watch his landing, the ankle stiffness here. Absolutely insane. It's just like he's slapping down the forefoot, and all that force is just getting propelled up the posterior chain into the glutes and wrapping around into the abdomen, and he's flying. Yeah. So even though his landing isn't perfect because obviously his toes are kind of pointing out, but because he's a sprinter, he's not really playing sports that require any kind of change of direction. It's not that big of an issue long term for him and his competition. But if you just look at the force transfer from the ground through the feet, how well stiffened that foot and ankle complex is. There's literally nothing in the gym that can create that. It's worth millions of dollars. All right, so here's a second video talking about this guy and his ankle stiffness. Yeah, so again, watch right here. Look at that, landing on basically the ball of the foot, the heel staying up, small little pronation, but then it just slingshots out of there because of the fascial tensioning. And again, that landing is is really not ideal as far as how duck footed he's landing, but because he's a track athlete and he's running straight, it's not that big a deal in terms of injury risk long term. I mean, obviously, we'll see how over time his body develops, but he's just flying. He just has to slap the ground, and the force transfers through the fascia, and he just springs. See, the thing is, most athletes obviously try and copy this guy, but they don't have the fascia built like him. So all the force goes into the muscle, and it stops there. Muscle is not meant to be elastic. Yeah. Long story short, get out of the gym and start training ankle stiffness. Next one. All right, we got Real Madrid walking over some hurdles. What's the funny thing is, like, track coaches have players do this because they think it's good for hip mobility and different stuff like that. But none of these players run that way, and they're some of the best players in the world. Like, your body is not robotic. Nothing happens in perfectly straight lines in nature. So doing this hip mobility stuff over the hurdles makes zero sense when you realize biomechanics does not work that way. So mindlessly trying to force the hips to go into deeper ranges of motion that is just based off geometry, just thinking about 90-degree angle, internal, external, like, it just doesn't, that's not how the body works. And of course, in our human construct, it's very easy to put things into compartments and try to analyze the body and think of it of a certain way on paper. But in reality, it's just there's this creativity in simplicity that humans have not been able yet to master. There's no transfer to sport. It's just ridiculous. And here it's just, this is so embarrassing that you have professional players doing the same nonsense as a random physical therapy place in a small town in the US where they're helping, old ladies with their, hip surgery. Trying to artificially force a part of the glutes to contract via the resistance of a band has no correlation or causation to actual glute function when you land, when you run, when you walk, when you jump, when you kick a football. Has no correlation. So this is applying robotic, non-athletic thinking to elite athletes. Those guys already have the fascial connections from their feet to the glutes. Their glutes already work. You don't need to do clamshells and try and force a part of the glute muscle, or of the glute muscle group, to activate, thinking that somehow that's going to help you on the pitch. Because now what happened? It's even worse, because what you just did is you isolated and took out a piece of the glute. You made it tired. You fatigued it by activating, which is just ridiculous notion. There's no science to back that up at all. It's just kind of it sounds good. So you took out a piece of the glute, you activated it with the band. So all that means is you just made it tired because you're forcing it into this weird acute range of motion that targets that part of the glute. You made it tired, and then you stand up, and now you're walking around. Your brain is like, wait, why is a certain part of my glute tired and the other parts of my glute aren't tired? Now there's an imbalance, and now you just created the recipe for long-term injury.
Out on compliments, overdosed on confidence, started not to give a.
So the stuff on the half balls, those are okay. There's better things to be doing, but then here, oh my goodness, this is some of the most embarrassing stuff to have world-class athletes worth millions of dollars doing a hip rotation. Again, it's the same as the hurdles. They're just doing mindless mobility, trying to complete an arbitrary range of motion that someone said, oh yeah, it's good just because it's more. More is not better. What's better is better. So just forcing your hips to get more range of motion is not better, because that range of motion is not relevant to how you run, to how you change direction, or to how you land. When you run, you do not do these things. Your knee does not become valgus. Your ankle does not fall in. So they're literally untraining their natural biomechanics that got them to Real Madrid, and they're coding in the biomechanics that will get them injured and moved away from Real Madrid.
And the consequence, drinking every night because.
Now, this is pretty normal, like ab workout that you'd probably see some like dude at the gym doing that like wants to lose weight, but it has no transfer to actual ab function on the football pitch.
Cause we drink to my accomplishments, faded way too long.
That's the other thing about core training. It's just so ridiculous, so redonkulous that I'm just gonna scrunch up my spine, fully flex my spine, pull my neck forward, and I'm forcing all of the abdomen to contract. That's not doing anything helpful for you. It doesn't make you better at running. It doesn't make you better at landing, at any kind of force absorption, force creation, or change of direction. It just makes your abs sore in the morning. And your abs sore doesn't mean you're better at football. It just means you have shorter abs because you just forced and contracted them over and over again. Now you don't have the same level of spinal extension, which you need to run properly and sprint your fastest. So it's just, again, embarrassing that a big club like Real Madrid has their top level, the multi-million-dollar athletes doing nonsense.
I'm floating in and out of consciousness and they saying I'm back.
All right.
I agree with that. I just take
that stuff is like, it's okay. I mean, there's better things they could be doing, but it's not as damaging as other stuff.
my time with all this shit. I still believe in that. I had someone tell me I fell off.
Now this Copenhagen plank, it's like a more advanced version of core stability, which is like, let's make this thing as hard as possible. And because it's harder, because it's more complex, because it hurts more, that means it's better for our bodies, right?
Ooh, I needed that, and they want to see me pick back up. Well,
and again, of course, they're going to make some kind of explanation that it targets this a certain part of the abs, the obliques, and say somehow in their mind that's going to transfer. It doesn't. It's just make believe. And then here's a side plank, which is, again, is what you have overweight people do to lose weight, or bodybuilders, or random gym training. These are elite athletes. When you run and you land and that left foot hits the ground, the fascia in that left foot needs to engage so that the fascia going up through the hamstrings, the glutes, and wrapping around the abs, that's how the core activates the fascia from the feet when you land, because that's how the whole thing balances out as one big spider web. It does not work like this, where you lay on your side and just lift up your hips and you keep your obliques and your core and your spine as stiff as possible, so you don't collapse. That's not how you run, and in fact, it's the opposite of how you run.
I know I exaggerated things. Now I got it like that. Tuck my napkin in my shirt because I'm
all right. So, like, in the big picture, like, this stuff isn't as bad if they're doing it on the ball of the foot. But again, you don't run like this. Like, it is a bilateral position, but I wouldn't say it's bad. I would say it's okay, and at least they're doing it at like their max speed. Obviously, it depends how much weight they're putting into that machine. The closer you are to your max speed, the better, because that's how you get faster.
just mobbing like that. You know good and well.
Now, that's not bad. At least they're training some coordination, some skill at their max speed in a lateral motion that most footballers need to work on, actually.
That you don't want a problem like that. You gonna make someone around.
All right. That was a lot of nonsense. Next one. All right. So now we got fueling Premier League ballers pregame. Let's see. So that guy's got green hair with face tats. All right. All right. He's just showing some clips. Let me refresh this so we can see. All right. So look, we got coconut, banana, I think some dragon fruit, and a few other, like, obviously these are all tropical fruits. Now, they're playing in England. In case you didn't realize, those fruits do not grow in England. And I know for most of you guys, like, that statement alone makes no sense to you. But nature designed our world in a certain way. You're supposed to eat the fruit that is local to you. eating a banana that's been flown in across the world is absolutely terrible for you. Now, there's many reasons why. Kind of like a general perspective is that you're eating sugars that aren't present in your environment. So then because your environment molds your body via light, via cold, via warmth, via the air, via the grounding, via especially the amount of UV light present in that time of year in that location on the planet, your body does not have the facilities to digest and assimilate that food. So then it becomes very bad for your body to be trying to handle these things that are so out of touch with where you live. So it's like this mindset of like more is better. It's like, oh, we got these like superfoods from Brazil. It's like, why does that make it good for me? Maybe you're in England. Maybe you should think about eating local raw milk from a farm, local grass-fed meat, raw honey that's local, that has exponentially more nutrients that is bioavailable for your body. All right, guys. Last one. We got FC Dynamo from Russia. I think they're on a trip, maybe in Turkey or Spain or somewhere. All right, so these guys are from Russia. They're doing their camp in the preseason in a warm location, obviously on the sand. Now, there's a lot of things here that make absolutely no sense. Number one, they're all wearing plastic clothing, covering up their skin, which is like besides your eye, obviously, is the most important part of your body to absorb sunlight. Imagine if you put a tarp over a plant and the plant gets on sunlight, you'll die. And for those that say, oh, like we're humans, we aren't plants, well, we have a lot in common with plants as far as how we absorb energy from our environment, especially photosynthesis. There is a lot of cool science recently about how important sunlight is for literally every process in the body. And if you don't get enough, you will pass away. So you probably should, if you're going to travel all the way to Turkey or Dubai or like wherever they are, you should probably maximize your time in the sun and stop wearing cheap plastic garbage clothing and take your shirt off, get some sun on your skin, and then take your shoes off. What, like you're in nature on the beach. Why aren't you grounding? It is so ridiculous to wear cushioned shoes on the sand. Like there's already cushion in your shoes and there's already like the sand is is soft enough. Why are you wearing shoes? And these guys are really, the football world has so much room to grow. It's absolutely gobsmacking. Now, the main thing here is they're just doing like random speed and agility stuff on the sand with bands. So they're literally, because of the instability of the sand, the body has to reprioritize how it's going to absorb force and balance itself from not falling over. So in that process, what you're doing is you're taking away from speed development, power development, and from max output. So you're literally making yourself worse, making yourself slower at the skill that you're trying to work on, which is absolutely insane because they spend all this money and they have these trainers and physios that have literally no intelligence to just think about this with common sense and say, hey, I want to get faster. Maybe I should run fast. Instead, they're trying to get faster by running slower. Does that make sense to anybody on here? No, it shouldn't, at least. And again, the theme of this video is because something is difficult doesn't make it good. You have to actually understand, why is this beneficial to me, and then do it properly. Just because you're doing speed work on the sand and the sand makes it harder, so you're sweating more and you're burning more calories, that doesn't make it better. There is no logical analysis in this whole video. So anyways, guys, that's enough of my ranting. Hope you enjoyed this. If you want to become an elite footballer, join my program called Total Footballer. We'll take you on a journey across the 5 pillars of talent and turn you into an elite footballer, transforming your vitality, transforming your flow state, transforming your athletic ability, transforming your mental models, and lastly, transforming your strategy, your mastery of the game of football. If you are a professional player, you should look at my Club Entangled. Send me an email at taylor@footballentangled.com and we'll talk about if you are a good fit for working with me one-on-one. All the best, guys. Talk soon.